Hey traders, welcome to Charts and Coffee. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everyone is having a good morning. All right, so let's get to it. I am going to open up the charts of the indices. If you have any questions, any symbols that you'd like to take a look at here together, let me know what it is and we'll do that here. All right, couple interesting things going on, obviously, with the kind of price action that we're seeing. One, we're still very much in this bearish chop. Now I'm going to start to emphasize chop because we're no longer really in a downtrend. If you take a look, and let me grab my drawing tools here. If you take a look at what we're dealing with, and this is how in real time I assess these things and make decisions about the environment that I'm trading. That's a downtrend, right? This is the Dow, by the way. That's a downtrend. That's a downtrend. But when we start to transition to that dark color, this is where, if you compare, this is where things go neutral. So through here, that's neutral, bullish, neutral, right? Here's some neutral here. We're back to being neutral again. And the thing to remember about when we have these red candles dominating as we do, but then we start to get more of these yellow neutral candles. So neutral could either be this gray color, neutral could be this yellow color, depending on whether you're looking at the candles or if you're looking at the indicator itself, but pretty easy to discern that this is no longer a downtrend. Okay, cool. Now what? I'm still bearish. I can't be bullish until I start to see a little bit more conviction behind steadiness of neutral. So I want to see at least, this would take easily till Wednesday to make an early, here we go. I need 3 more yellow candles to make even an early neutral, steady assessment of where I could be long or long or short, or long calls or long puts. Right now, below some key levels, I'm going to remain pretty bearish. Now, it's interesting. This is as bullish as traders have been, but they're bullish basically right up against resistance level. So be careful. Keep that more nimble type attitude in terms of how you're getting in, how you're getting out. We've had a couple scenarios with swing trades where not only are we getting in and getting out within usually a slightly shorter time horizon, sometimes we're hitting the target that day. We took a, what was it? I think it was a Coke and an Occidental trade, and our targets hit that day. Now, I'm not looking to be a super active in today, out today trader. I like when things move with a little bit more follow through, which is to say a little bit more slow and steady. However, a target is a target. So when I send out a trading idea in the Sector Secrets Mastery, it includes a number of things. Obviously, what are we going to trade? What's the symbol? What's the expiration? What's the strike? Then up to 3 triggers, predetermined levels at which I will scale in. Along with that, we have a percentage that we're going to scale in at with each trigger. So these are all things that I do, and they're fairly unique. This process of scaling in with a certain amount of budget at each level, allocating a fixed amount of dollars per trade, it's a little unique, but it's very easy to do, and I have found it's the best way to manage risk. So I'll put all 3, up to 3 of those triggers in the alert, as well as the stop loss. How much are we risking of the premium, and the first target. Now, because everyone knows this at the onset of the trade, even before they bought the first contract, they know where they would look to buy, at least at probably two other levels. Once they buy, they know exactly what the stop is. They know exactly what the target is. So no one's waiting on me to say, hey, let's do this next, right? The entire blueprint is in the alert. And I mention that because right now it's been exceedingly important that that's the case, because a lot of times we're getting in and then getting the target triggered within the same session. That's the kind of action we're seeing. Yesterday was a great example of an alert in gold. So this would have been this candle right here, where we got down to the level and hit the trigger. I did not get this trade. I want to make sure I'm super clear on this, but hit the trigger. I think I was just late to the trade, and then hit the target. So we got in and then out, and then look at it. It's almost as if it's refiring again. This is what I'm trying to show you, more so than the trade alert that I send out to members. This is what I'm trying to show you. This isn't follow through. We hit the entry, then boom, we hit the target. And now it looks like maybe we'll get another chance at an entry. Don't know. That was a great day trade, though. We had a nice day trade on gold. Couldn't get the swing, but I'm really not that upset because we're right back at the level, if not lower than the level that I was looking to get the swing at yesterday. This is the environment we're in. So we want to be in and out sometimes much quicker than perhaps we have been calibrating to before. All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions that have come up. All right, let's see. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Can we take a look at TQQQ? So for those of you that may not be familiar with this, anytime we're looking at any variation of the NASDAQ, this is just the ultra pro, whatever they're called, shares. The thing to remember with any of these is whether it's an ultra, whether it's an inverse, whatever it may be, TD, it's not about breaking down TQQQ, right? For me, it's still, whether I'm looking at QQQ, MNQ, quadruple Qs, TQQQ, whatever variation of this NASDAQ 100 we're looking at, I want to start with the NQ. So if it's an inverse, obviously what's up is down on the inverse. And if it's an ultra, obviously it's just got a lot more horsepower behind it. But everything starts here. Now, if I'm looking at the NQ on the daily time frame, and I'm looking at this zone of resistance right in here, the thing to remember, there's your resistance right there. We're at the resistance right now. Everyone can see that? I would not mind if price got up to the daily price movement range. And if you look at the chart just to the left, you'll see this is the daily price movement range, and this is that. So if I'm going to be looking at TQQQ hitting some sort of resistance level, I'm going to either define that by this Darvis level right here. So that magenta line is the Darvis. Or I'm going to wait for the DPMR. That's the resistance up in here. And that's where I would look to buy puts on NQ futures or QQQ or whatever variation. Now, if you're looking at TQQQ, let's take that and go to the symbol. So this is just an alternative, right? So this is where I'm looking at the same symbol, but a similar setup. I'm not a big fan of, quite frankly, the variations of. That's just me. It doesn't mean it's a good or bad idea. I'm just not usually a really big fan of it. If you think about what's in the Ultra Pro QQQ, if you think about the holdings, it's a lot of T-bills. So I do want to make sure everyone knows, yes, it's Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. It's all the, I believe it's mostly your Mag 7s or Awesome 8s. The top holdings are a little different than the NAS. So I think one of the first things we've got to ask is this apples and apples, or is this apples and pineapples? This is very an apples and pineapples conversation because Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Broadcom, Meta, Netflix, Costco, those are your top weighted stocks in TQQQ. So it's not exactly the NASDAQ. And then you've got a lot of May, June, and maybe, I'm not sure if there's any dollars, US dollar holdings in this, but you got a lot of May and June T-bills in this as well. So all I would say is if you're trading this, be careful. It's gonna go on its own journey. I would definitely be bearish. So same thing. Here's our resistance. I would like the NASDAQ to move with it, but clearly it may not have to. And I would say when you're getting up in this 52 area, focus on that. It's not a trend any longer. So this is really about being overbought. And for me, it's not quite overbought. The tool that I like to use is not in the area that it should be in to confirm overbought, but it's not bad. If you can use that Darvis resistance right there, cool. If not, just remember, it's not going to move exactly like the NASDAQ, right? Because the weighting is different. So thank you for the question, TD. All right, Joanne asks, thank you for the great insight into the markets. What are my thoughts on Palantir Coin and AMD? Okay, so let's go ahead and start with PLTR. Again, time frame is really important, gang. I'm gonna default to the daily unless otherwise y'all mention, but please remember, what time frame we're looking at should be as important as what symbol we're looking at, right? So looking at daily Palantir, the weekly Palantir probably looks a little bit more interesting. I'm going to just mention that as an aside for longer term traders. We just pulled back, and I think some of our mastery folks did scoop up some of this mean reversion. I did not. This is not necessarily a stock that I've been thinking about directly putting in a longer term portfolio, but if it pulls back to the mean again, maybe yes. And gang, remember, time frame is not the same as time horizon, right? If I want to be in a trade for 6 to 12 months, time frame is the interval on the chart. And this is, it's really interesting, the jargon around trading that's changed. 30 years ago, you really never had traders talk about time horizons. They were looking at a certain time frame, and that was it. Now it's much more common for traders to go, well, I'm looking at it for the next 6 to 12 months. So the first thing is nobody knows what's going to happen over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, but there are certain time frames that are going to be better suited to that type of potential follow through. That would be the weekly. The weekly is usually going to be the better candidate, not the daily. As far as the daily goes, if it does revisit, I'd say about $70 to $68. That would definitely be a fantastic setup off the support there. Other than that, there's not a lot that's catching my eye on Palantir on the daily time frame. But longer term, again, 6 to 12 months, you mentioned there, Jawan. Sure. Longer term, it's definitely something that would be a mean reversion. And gang, yeah, the thinking about the language of trading matters a lot, right? Because a lot of times traders think that ceiling, resistance, sellers, and supply are 4 different things. They are absolutely not 4 different things. They're 4 different words for the same thing, right? Just like floor, support, buying, demand. They're 4 different words for the exact same thing. I say same thing in that how are we deriving that level, right? That floor, that ceiling, that support, that resistance. Is it price-based? Is it volume-based? Is it volatility-based, right? So the same thing with the languaging of just even something as basic as the chart we're looking at. There is one, the time frame we're looking at to set up the trade. And then there's a certain expectation around it. So for example, when we traded gold yesterday, that wasn't a swing trade. That wasn't a longer term position trade. That was a day trade. So the expectation was I was going to use a 5-minute time frame and I was going to trade today, right? They really should call day trading today trading. So that 5-minute chart aligned itself really well for the expectation of follow through for the session. If I moved it out to an hour, it might be 1 to 3 days. If I move it out to a daily time frame, it would likely be 2 to 4 weeks, somewhere in that window. If we move it out to the weekly, now we're talking a minimum 6 months to potentially years. And those are the time frame / time horizon settings that I teach the traders. And so when we're talking about time, let's say you don't know a time frame. You're thinking, Rog, I'd like to see if I could get follow through for 6 to 12 months. And you don't know what time frame. Great, I'll direct you to the weekly. So those are basic things that I think that's really pretty easy to memorize. And it makes sort of the language of how we're thinking about the market much more consistent, right? So thank you for the question. Thoughts on XLP? All right. Actually, none right now. What are my thoughts on XLP? For the month to date, I don't like the structure. It's definitely a defensive. So if you look at the month to date on Koifin, yeah, thanks for the question, position. Positron, sorry. Positron. Yeah, I'm leaving this one alone. However, my friend, I would look at, let's look at the layout that I use in the mastery. I would crack open XLP. Here we go. Like this, and say, hey, are there any individual stocks in that group that could have better follow through, that are setting up? And Pepsi, I would avoid to the long side. Philip Morris, we have a long position of Walmart, so all my cards on the table. We continue to trade Walmart. But Coke is another one. Coke was one of those that we got in, hit an optional target, and then it break even closed. So there are some for some traders, I think for others are still in it. But nonetheless, we're getting a lot of quick 1-day type follow through. But I put Coke on the list to the long side, Walmart, Philip Morris, of course. I put Kroger on the list to the long side as well. So if you're looking for strength in that group, positron, yeah, good eye in terms of keeping an eye on that relative performance. I'd keep an eye on that. All right, next up, let me go back to one of the symbols that Joanne had asked about, and that was coin. Lately, if I've been playing Bitcoin, it's using IBIT. I want 2 more green candles for coin to be something I'd be willing to buy for a swing. And I know AMD has been a dumpster fire generally. I would still be very bearish on AMD, focusing on long put setups. AGI, hey there, Gregory. AGI would be a terrific, well, you can see it right here. This was the previous mean reversion, very volatile. This is the most recent mean reversion. So I would stick with the mean reversions on the daily time frame. Yep, I like it. Gregory, I love your choice of the daily on this one. The weekly, by the way, if you're looking at a position trade, I would definitely keep an eye on that as well. But yes, mean reversions on this. So buy the dip. Buy the dip. Okay, we just need another dip. And if it wants to come back down and test it, as long as this is still in an uptrend, I'm fine with that. Absolutely. Good looking stock. Now, the other thing you can do, and I don't know if you've done this, Gregory, but the other thing you can do is go look at, who, for example, AGI, we'll use AGI as an example for this. Who is AGI hanging out with? Is there a reason? Now, we know this is a gold name for those of you that may not be aware. AGI is a name within GDX. All right. So let's say AGI doesn't come back down and give us another opportunity to take advantage of it. GDX could be a great alternative. So AGI, cool. You don't want to pull back again? No problem. Maybe after earnings, Newmont Mining, Agnico, Barrick, Wheaton. There's so many others in here that look great. So I would say if one stock's got your attention in that group, there's a lot of other names, Gregory, that make a lot of sense to keep an eye on. So really good stuff. All right. Let's see. Last question for the morning. Double Dare asks, what's my favorite coffee? Any tickers that I like? I mean, I will trade coffee futures from time to time. But lately, there's a coffee that one of our members brews, and he is nice enough to send it over our way. I'll have that. But lately, and it's summertime, I've been going back to some cold brew. So we've been doing cold brew. And as far as that goes, yeah, I've been buying. I've been so lazy with the coffee. My coffee game is very weak right now. This is a cold brew called Busy. And we go through ridiculous amounts of Busy and some raw milk. That's what's been in the Yeti every morning. All right, gang. Thanks as always for the questions. And I will see you all on Sunday for the Top Tier Outlook show. In the meantime, heads up, we do have, I believe, retail sales today, and the roller coaster continues. Be good to each other, gang. I'll talk with you soon.